Hello, and welcome into episode 100 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, alongside Colton Dodgson, who is muted right now.
Just letting you do your thing, guy.
He's just for the introduction. 100
Yeah.
episodes in, we're still clunky. Don't have actually a whole lot planned in this episode, to be honest. Just with ASU's bye week happening, and just kind of both of
We're
us are
we're
doing other.
grinders.
Yeah,
That's
we
all
are
it is,
grinders.
man. We don't.
Yes.
It's
Uh,
just another episode.
Exactly. So ASU lost to Cincinnati 24-14 on ESPN Plus. And they're 5-2. So let's just before we talk about the negatives, we just have to acknowledge that sitting here on, late October, ASU's 5-2, anyone would have taken that no matter what. But there were some annoying things in the game. It felt, Colton, it felt a lot like the Texas Tech loss, where you get down by a good chunk early on in the game to a team that is decent, at least, and you fight your way back to make it a closer game, but ultimately lose either way. So, what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, definitely. I think watching it, first and foremost, I had to watch it on my phone during a walk that my wife signed us up for. It was a
You're a real
silent.
grinder. I love
I,
that.
I I know it's my one walk a year, um, to stay in shape, and
You just walked your.
no. So it was to raise awareness. It was an honorable cause, right? It's to raise
Right.
awareness for sex trafficking, which is a good cause. You're supposed to be like you walk a straight line through downtown Phoenix. It's like a demonstration kind of. Walk through a straight
Yeah.
line through downtown Phoenix, um, and you're supposed to be like dead silent. And I'm sitting there like got my phone kind of like on my chest facing up, trying not to like flat tire my wife while she's walking in front of me. Um,
Right.
and just trying to keep an eye on this game at the same time, without disrupting this
The
demonstration that
mood.
I was a part of. So I was really balancing, doing what I could to balance there. But anyway, my points on the game are first and foremost, I'm glad that the 9 a.m. kickoff for the time being is behind us. I don't know if we'll have any more, but this one is behind us.
I think
With
I would really doubt that the game at K-State will be a 9 a.m. kickoff, because the one
yeah,
at
that
Oklahoma
kind of
State is scheduled not to be,
that
and then it's not going to be at U of A, right? So
yeah that K State game kind of has night game energy to it, but
yeah,
who knows?
yes,
So anyway, I was doing what I could to be husband of the year and also keep an eye on this game. The big things that I noticed from my phone screen while walking, was I went from thinking that wow, this team ASU might win this game by 2 scores to okay, they are not. It's going to be tough to win this game now in a matter of like 5 seconds, and he gets
yeah,
the benefit. Scatterbo gets the benefit of the doubt because of everything that he's done this year. But I can't overstate how crippling that fumble was.
yeah,
You score,
yep.
you force a turnover, and then you're looking to put together another drive, and instead you hand Cincinnati the ball right back within their own 15-yard line,
It
something like
was
that.
yeah, it was like 2 7-yard runs from Sorsby. It was in the red zone.
Right. So, I mean, obviously that's the first quarter. There's a whole lot of game, but you go from, I mean, possibly marching down the field and draining more clock and putting the Cincinnati offense back on the field, possibly down 2 possessions, to you just handed them the tie game. So,
Yeah.
super crippling fumble. It just got punched right out of his hands.
It was going to be like an 8-yard run too. Like that's the
Right.
thing.
And that's what I'm saying. Those are the runs that are just like backbreaking. So,
Yeah.
that is the main takeaway for me, was just everything after that was like you're thinking what could have been almost. And it's still impressive that they did hang around. It felt like this game was going to get out of hand. Can you? Oh wait, I can see it. Yeah, Cincinnati didn't even score in the second half. So
No,
you,
no.
you look at this game as like, okay, they're down 24-7. This is going to get out of hand. And then, ASU really only scores that one touchdown, but they had a shot after that fourth down stop. It was like, okay, we'll see what happens here. March down and score. The offense just couldn't really find a rhythm. That was tough. There
No.
were some mental mistakes, different
Yeah.
things like that. Jeff Sims running out before the first down comes to mind, that sort of thing.
That was
So
tough because like it wasn't like he ran, like it wasn't like sometimes you do see quarterback sacks where they like purposefully run out of bounds. That wasn't it. It's just too close to the sideline, steps out. That was
yeah,
rough.
no, just rough all around offensively. There were some flashes that catch that Jordan Tyson made while he was being interfered with, despite the fact that it wasn't called.
Yeah.
Was super impressive. After he
Tyson was
makes
good
that,
this whole game. Like,
yeah. After he makes that catch, you're kind of like, oh, what? Who knows? We'll see. But I also don't know. I texted you this, and I think we might be a little far, maybe not far apart, but differ a little bit on this. I am losing faith in Kenny Dillingham as a fourth down play caller. The
okay.
play calls on fourth down, and maybe that pistol works before, but if you need an inches, it wasn't even a full yard they needed on that pistol run. If
I
you
thought it
need,
was a full yard.
I don't
But
think so. They were
okay.
really, really close. If you're gonna run the ball with Scatterbo anyway, right? If that's the play call,
Yeah.
why hand it to him further behind the line? If it's just going to be that play was designed to just be a dive.
Yeah.
Like, why hand it to him out of the shotgun if you're just going to run him up the middle anyway? That didn't make any sense to me. I also don't understand. He threw his kicker under the bus at the end there, but I don't understand Dillingham. If he's going to go for it in those two situations, the pistol play and then another, I think Scatterbo got stuffed on the first one they went for, right?
Well, the first one, like, there's no debate from anyone about the first. Like, the first one was 4th and 3 on your own side of the field, and they throw it like they try to do a screen to Scattaboo,
Okay.
and it wouldn't have worked anyway. Like, even because
Oh, you're right. It was like a
yeah.
swing pass, right?
And that's basically like what Cincinnati did for their like in the second half when ASU stopped them on 4th down. They did like the same
Right.
type of play. I'm like, did you guys watch that play not work for us? Like, I don't know why you guys aren't just kicking the field goal here, but it didn't matter.
100%. But like I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, so you're going for it on 4th and 3 with a swing pass in your own territory, and
Yeah,
then running the ball on a dive up, the one of the middle gaps of the offensive line on
from
4th in
shotgun.
inches out of the pistol. But you're gonna throw your field goal kicker out there to kick a 48-yard field goal in a 2-score game. Like, I get you need 2 scores, but if you are already aware that your kicking is not where it needs to be, and there have been instances where it seems as though that is at least at the forefront of their mind, they know that their kicking game isn't where it needs to be,
Yeah,
and you've already gone for it twice in a game that was competitive, you need the touchdown anyway. It's 4th and 1. If it's 4th and 8, sure, see what you can do. You're not picking that up. And naturally, maybe it's further up, whatever. I'm not saying kick the 50 whatever yard field goal. You go for
yeah.
it there. But if you're running a 48-yard field goal on 4th and 8, you got to kick the field goal. But 4th and 1, you have to go for that, especially when you've established that we're going to go for these. We're going to be
I think it
aggressive.
was a 4th and 2, but I mean,
Either
it
way,
doesn't. Yeah,
if
doesn't change your point.
if you've established that you're going to be aggressive as a play caller, the play calls aren't great, but you're aggressive calling them, you have to go for it there. I understand you need 10, but at least try to get the tough part out of the way first with a 4th and 1. Not to mention time's winding down there, right? Like, I get that that might factor into the field goal a little bit. It's just not
Well,
a high
yeah,
percentage. It's just not a
that's
high
the thing.
percentage
Like,
kick, though. If you have a kicker, kick it.
no,
They don't have a kicker.
yeah, I mean, we can get into that discussion in a bit.
Does that say
It
123 or is
is
that the drive
so.
time?
Yeah, it was 4th and 2, Cincinnati. This is the play-by-play scoring
No,
gist
I
of all
know,
the
but how much
plays.
time was left when they kicked the ball? What does that say?
6 minutes. It says
No, the second one, I mean.
6:01. Oh, the second one. Second one was 30
Oh.
seconds. That's
Okay. I
that was a
mixed it up.
4th and
Yeah.
10.
No, I mixed
Yeah,
them up. But
the
yeah, that
second
4th and
one.
2
Yeah,
with 6 minutes left. I mean,
yeah,
you got time at that point to still score the touchdown and hopefully have like 3-ish minutes left on the clock. I don't know. That one drove me crazy because it's like I understand the thought process of like be who you are all the time, right? If you're going to be an aggressive play caller, be an aggressive play caller. And that's the rationale likely behind why he went for it on 4th down early in the game, right?
yeah,
But why all of a sudden are you going to switch up that mentality and then not be that aggressive play caller in that spot when you know your kicking game is in the state that it's in?
yeah.
So,
Well, I agree with most of your points about the 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter. I mean, did he know that the kicking game was going to be that bad? Like, that's the thing. Like,
but we've
I
seen it in weeks past.
right. No, it's true. That is true.
We've
But
seen
it
we've
was
seen the
never
kicking game. Right, but
like those
47
were
is long.
shanks. Like,
100%. They weren't even close, but 48 is
yeah,
long for
that's true.
above average college kickers.
Right, right.
Like if you've got a guy that you don't even know who's going to be kicking, like is he going to send Hershey out? Who is he going to send out to kick these field goals? Like they've already struggled with them. Obviously, he feels the need to hold open tryouts, so he doesn't feel comfortable with any options that they currently have on the roster.
Yeah,
47 is a long field goal in a 2-score game, 6 minutes left, pretty deep in their territory, right? You pick that up, you've got a shot to make it a 3-point game. And then who knows? Maybe you get the onside kick and you score the touchdown. But you have all the momentum if things go down that way. It just, I feel like after the game, the sentiment was they got out physicaled, right? The
well, I
Cincinnati
agree
was
with that. I mean,
100%,
Faltani said
100%.
it. Yeah,
And I think you saw that on that swing pass. Like nobody was holding blocks. Plays that needed to develop weren't developing. They were being blown up. In an offense like this, where you've got a lot of pulling, you've got a lot of, motion, you've got a lot of things that need to develop. If you're missing one piece in that equation, the play is going to blow up. And you saw that quite a bit. I don't know. I thought they came out strong too, which was interesting,
yeah,
especially for an
yes,
early game. I thought they
yes.
started really strong. So I'm like, how much of this can you blame on the 9 a.m. kickoff? Because they got worse as the game went along.
Well, maybe that, like, yeah, that's so hard to actually like know, right?
Right.
Especially
Yeah,
for us.
there's no way we could, but you're just
Yeah,
speculating because it's like, how did they? And then they pulled it together there at the end. That 4th down stop that you mentioned was huge. That made it kind of a game, and
yeah,
that's where I see your Texas Tech parallel too, because it's like, okay, you don't really
yes.
feel like you're in it, and then there's a small glimmer at the
You just
end.
hang around. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. It's easy to chalk this up to no Levitt, whatever.
Well,
Very
I mean,
much
that is a big.
it is. No, I'm saying
Yeah.
it very well could be the big issue there, and that I mean it felt like unfortunate. It felt like one of those games where it's like I wonder where we'd be if Levitt was playing, right? Because he
Yeah.
seems to feel a little more comfortable in this offense and run it a little more effectively than Jeff Sims did against Cincinnati. So I don't know. Maybe that hypothetical alone, I mean, is enough for ASU fans to kind of recognize, okay, we're in an unfortunate spot. We still didn't get blown out on the road, 9 a.m. just kind of you chalk it up to a scheduling loss if you want, or an injury loss, whatever it was. I don't know. I questioned. That was the first game where I was kind of like, what is Dillingham doing here?
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I get the kicker thing that you're frustrated and everything, but you got to feel for Hershey after that, man. And I like that he owned up to it because he's absolutely right.
He
Like,
had to, yeah.
No, yeah, but the point he made was if you're blaming the offense, if you're blaming the defense, that falls on 11 guys.
Right.
If you're blaming the kicking, that falls on one guy, and it was good of him to recognize that. So, but I don't know, that it's got to be tough to be Ian Hershey right now. There's kids from campus walking on trying to take your job, but I mean, you have to kick effectively too. So it's a double-edged sword.
We can talk about. I mean, I think like the way. First of all, I did not expect that clip to go as viral as it did. Like it was on
the kicking clip. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of his press conference, I did just. I mean, like it's a whole college football Saturday, and the biggest news of the early games was Dillingham acting immaturely at his press conference, which is what happened. But I was just surprised that somehow, I mean, I guess there just wasn't anything crazy that happened in the early window. Yeah, I mean, he shouldn't have said atrocious. Like you can't. This is a learning experience, but he deserves the criticism he's getting for the tone that he displayed after that. The decision to hold open tryouts, I'm on board. Like, I'm sorry. It's been a problem all year, and someone who didn't watch the game can look and see, he missed a 48-yarder and a 40-yarder. And, like you said, the 48-yarder, it was questionable at best if he even should have gone for it there, or if they even should have kicked it there. But the more, detailed look of the people who are watching the games on a regular basis is those kicks were both shanked. And that does matter to me in how you're missing kicks. And even though it obviously counts, a great kick that, just flies right outside of the upright counts the same as a shank. I get it, but that does matter. And then all the previous struggles that we've talked about beforehand. I do want to go over some of the in-game stuff, but hopefully we find one of these guys. I saw a segment on 12 News that one of the kids trying out was on the rugby team. He sounded British. I'm like, get this guy on the team. Get this guy kicking. He won't even have the same pressure about it because it's it's just college football to him,
Yeah, I think it was the Australian guy, right?
I don't know, whatever.
Jake Garcia's piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was Australian or not. I heard the accent.
I think he said he was an Australian guy, and I'm saying,
well, that's even better.
Australian punters have a pretty solid track record. So
yeah, for sure. But the biggest
kickers,
big picture issue with Dillingham right now, and this is nitpicking because again, we're 5-2. If you look at any model, it's ASU's either probably going to go 7-5 or 8-4, one of those two, depending on a 50-50 game. So, which is a perfectly good spot to be in year two. With all that said, the special teams has been bad this year, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens with him potentially retaining Charlie Ragle as special teams coordinator, because he's just not good at it. It's not like special teams was great last year, and that it could kind of fly under the radar because there were zero expectations. There were so many things wrong with the team. It almost like it didn't even matter.
Right.
This year, I think we're lucky that special teams hasn't cost us a game yet. And someone could argue that it cost us this game. I
don't think it did.
It did not.
No.
And you could credit Dillingham for getting out ahead of this, right? Because I this team has played enough close games that you're probably going to have to kick, you're probably going to have to make a big kick in one of these games at some point.
Yeah, so it's kind of shocking they haven't yet. You're right.
I know. And I was I was thinking during the Kansas game when ASU had to drive downfield, they were down by 3. And of course, they scored the touchdown, so it doesn't matter. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I do not want a field goal here. I like, even if it's within 30 yards, I don't trust it. We've been missing extra points. Like, it's just bad. So, but like, we can get mad at, certain kickers, but ultimately this falls on Charlie Ragle and ultimately Kenny Dillingham. So he needs to be on the hot seat for sure. Like, and it's a tough spot for Dillingham. It is, because this was the guy who was his coach in high school, literally was the person who helped him learn how to coach. So it makes sense why he was on the staff. Like, he has connections to Arizona high schools and stuff. I just think you gotta,
or move him to a different role if it needs to do that too.
At least do that. Yes, maybe have him be like a general manager. Like all these college teams have general managers, something like that. Some type of polo job. I don't care. It's just rehire Sean Slocum. He was fine. We have good kickers with him and good punters, right? Like that was like Colton, at the end of our college, that was like it was ASU had like N'Keal Harry, had a few like offensive linemen who were like 6th round picks or something, and then they had Matt Hack and Zane Gonzalez. Like those were like the best players on the team in some games. So that's not where you want to be as a program. I get that, but the special teams is just, it's been an eyesore, and that's not why ASU lost this game. It probably contributed a bit more to the Texas Tech loss because they had kicks going out of bounds, which is the worst of anything that's happened.
Right.
But even then, it didn't fully contribute to it. So, yeah, no, I hope – I don't know. I think that, Dillingham did reflect in one of his recent press conferences this week of saying, like we're going to reevaluate some 4th down decisions that we do. So I can the 4th and 3 in the first half, that was just bad all around. The 4th and 1 that they didn't get where they ran out of the shotgun, I am less critical of that as you, simply because they have gotten critical short yardage situations running out of the shotgun with Levitt. So I can live with it, but they did mention that they got to the line too quickly, and that could have been a miscommunication with Sims too, because they did go under center later in the game at times. So I am less upset about them going shotgun as most people, but I totally get the argument. Like it totally makes sense.
Yeah, I just think don't make it harder on yourself.
Yeah.
You got a couple inches. Don't make yourself have to pick up more yardage.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I guess once the I feel like once the Scattaboo fumble happened, it just everything. It just I just felt in my head like we're losing this game. Like and it's. There's no reason to criticize Scattaboo. Like he's been the best player on this team. He's the reason you've won like 3 games, right? Like he can afford another mulligan, honestly.
I mean it's totally fine, and it just sucks that it had to be such a critical turnover, a turnover that completely shifted. Yeah, it completely shifted the complexion of the game.
Yes, exactly. It totally did. And then the dumb 4th and 3 decision-making compounded on top of that. Because if, let's just say ASU just punts that ball away and they get a 3 and out or whatever, and instead of being down 24-7 at half, they're down 21-7. Then when you're making a comeback later in the game, you might not have to go for a long field goal. You just go to the 4th down because you're only down by 7. But the flip side of that is Cincinnati would have just kicked the field goal on 4th and 3 instead of going for it. So you never know how it all would play out if they didn't do that. But it did contribute to the loss. And then another thing is ASU's run defense this year has been pretty good, but this was not a good day for it. And I know they improved in the second half, but you give up 100 yards to Kiner, who didn't really kill you on any play. But that touchdown run they gave up to Pryor, man, that's when I knew we were going to lose. That really felt like the dagger. And it was, again, like we like Brian Ward. He got on a blitz call. Like Cincinnati called the perfect play. It was basically like one or two guys who had a shot of a chance to get him down, and it wasn't happening. So that was brutal. But I don't know. It does feel like we talk about these things. With Dillingham's probably he's probably worst in-game coaching outing as a Sun Devil. I think that's the team just not holding up as well on the lines of scrimmage, right? That was clear watching this game. Like we talked about it last week of ASU hasn't really been out physicaled in any of these games. It's either been a draw or it's we've been the more physical team. I would say Cincinnati was slightly more physical, and it showed in the scoreboard and in the yards per rush and all that. So it just feels like ASU kind of had to play like a perfect game to win, and that wasn't happening. So I don't really even though there's all these like annoying things that happen in the game, I don't walk away from that game being like, oh, if this one play hadn't happened, we would have won. It's like the only play that you can talk about that in that way is the Scadaboo fumble. But even then, like we don't know what happens. Like they could have just gotten a first down and then punted the next time, and it's a tough loss, but when you factor in it's a 9 a.m. start, and I know they did everything to prepare, and it didn't feel like they were super out of it early on. Maybe it contributed later in the game. I don't know, but it's still a weird time. And then playing it with Sims, that's the other thing. Like if you are going to make a comeback, it's probably not going to be with Jeff Sims. Like if we're winning a game with Jeff Sims, it's going to be a game where we don't fall down by 17 points. So there's that. And yeah, so I don't know. It would have been great to get to 6-1, but it doesn't really like this team feels like it's 5-2. It doesn't feel like it's 6-1. And especially when you look at the wins that they've had, it does kind of suck that Utah is clearly it looks like they're going to be a team that's fighting to get to 6-6 this year because of their offense is so bad.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. It doesn't take away from the win because you got destroyed by them last year, but it is just like a nagging, I wish Utah was actually a better team. It's kind of the same thing with Kansas, although I think they'll improve as the season goes along. You throw Mississippi State in there. That is kind of annoying, but you're 5-2 and your losses are not stupid losses, right? This isn't a loss that we're going to be annoyed by 5 years later. It's going to be like, we lost to a team about as good as us on the road. S happens, So, any other thoughts on this game, Colton?
Not really, man. It is what it is. You said it. It's not one we'll continue to rehash for very long. It's just it comes with a college football season, especially in a league as balanced and competitive as the Big 12.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think they should start another quarterback against Oklahoma State?
It's hard to say because you can't really gauge how much of the offense being ineffective was. Is it going to be much better if you go to Trenton Bourguet? I guess he has more familiarity in the system. The big hope is that Leavitt is able to make it back, and it looked like it's at least something that
it's on the table.
Isn't impossible. Which is kind of when we discussed his injury. That's kind of how it felt. It would be when they said 2 to 4 weeks, as he would probably push to make it back for Oklahoma State if he's not able to pull it off.
Dillingham said 50-50 this week.
Right. So that's about, I don't know, just based off the vibe we got when the announcement was made, I feel like this is the position I expected them to be in with Levitt. Is maybe he'll be back. If not, then hopefully the following week when they get UCF.
Yeah. I think
So
that I do not expect Levitt to play at Oklahoma State. I
they're
just don't.
probably going to take the
Yeah.
cautious route, make sure he's 100% healthy. Don't put him out there unless kind of protect the player from himself a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And they probably think they can win at Oklahoma State without him. And they might be right. Like Oklahoma State's run defense is bad, but they did show a lot of life at BYU last week, and
Right, that game was
that in the
crazy.
back of my head. I'm like, oh, is Oklahoma State just going to start playing better now? Like with these teams in the Big 12, it feels like when you play them is more important than like who you play. You know,
Right, that's a great point.
It's so true. Like it just feels like teams like Texas Tech got destroyed by Baylor last weekend. Like none of these games. I mean, Iowa State almost lost to UCF. I'm kind of glad that like UCF and Oklahoma State aren't like. It's easier for the team to focus on those two teams, even though they're having bad Big 12 seasons. If they see like, oh, like they're taking the two undefeated teams in the league down to the wire on the road, like we have to show up and play these guys. So it's more concerning. We've been talking about like their record this whole year. So they're 5-2. We know the schedule. We know if we're being the most likely outcome is like ESPN FPI has us at like 7.2 wins, which I think is weird that it dropped. It was like 7.8 last week, and now it drops because we lose a game that they expected us to lose. That's just kind of confusing to me, but it does. I guess it's just that they lost, so it's less wiggle room.
Right, and these are algorithms, right? So they don't really factor in all of the nuance, right? Like, so I don't know. We'll see where they're at. It's tough to gauge where they're at right now because they're playing without Levitt, right? And I mean, the defense still showed up and pitched a shutout in the second half, which was awesome. I think you hope that regardless of what happens with this kicker tryout, they have something in place for Saturday.
Like I would love to go into a
Saturday.
game. Yeah. If we can kick like a 40-yard field goal with confidence, that like I'll take that, you know. Anything else, like it's just not, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, it seems like we're in a decent spot. Not it would have been nice to win, obviously. Like that would have been better, and it would have been great to still have Levitt, but you're 5-2. I feel like we can go 3-2 the rest of the way. I think we can get to 8 wins because I think we split these next 2 games. I think we lose at K-State, and I think we beat BYU at home and we beat Arizona in Tucson. So
you're taking a split with Oklahoma State and UCF?
I think it's not that I'm taking it. I just think that's
but like that's okay.
Yeah.
No, I just wasn't sure if you meant like Cincinnati and Oklahoma or Oklahoma State or Oklahoma State and
the next 2 games. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, hopefully they can take the Oklahoma State game. That would be massive. That kind of takes a little bit of pressure off of you because, I mean, I don't know how the team is feeling, but that 6th win.
Oh my gosh.
Has to be kind of hanging over their head a little bit. Like, okay, it's kind of like, you know, when a team goes up 3-1 in a series and it's like, okay, we only need one more, and then it's 3-3 and you're down to the wire and you're like, oh, what happened? So hopefully that doesn't.
No, that getting a win at Oklahoma State would be fantastic because then it just ends any sort of like, oh, are they like, because remember, this was our junior year, 2016. ASU started out 5-1, finished the season 5-7. Now, the difference with that team, like that team's defense was very bad, and they also had a tougher schedule down the stretch. So it's not apples and apples, but things happen. You know, you just like you got to play the games. So it should be in the back of their head. And you know,
whoever the top high school kicker is, send a Brinks truck to his house.
Yeah. Well, another thing that happened, I don't know if you saw this, but one of Adrian Wilson, one of ASU's 4-star wide receiver previous commits, decommitted. So
I
that's
did
not
see
great.
that. Yeah.
But it's also so it. I want to share both my thoughts on it because it is like I don't like. It's not good. It's not good to lose a 4-star recruit like that. At the same time, it's a wide receiver, and I feel like it just seems like there's just a ton of wide receivers that can be taken from high school. Like I still like the wide receivers in our class, so that's not an issue, and in the portal as well. So from that perspective, it's not the end of the world, but it's also like it would be nice to finish. I don't know in the top 40 of recruiting. Like that seems reasonable for ASU. That's where we've hovered around this whole offseason. So yeah. But Cartman quote tweeted a tweet from Kenny that was just before Wilson decommitted that's saying like it's a great day to be a Sun Devil. So it could be, there's some other recruit that they're after. But it's just I don't want to react too much to this because like recruiting just matters less now, especially if you're trying to win a national championship or compete at the top of the Big Ten or SEC, then yeah, recruiting is extremely important. In the Big 12 for ASU, like it's not life or death, So that's just annoying. But do you think it could be related to like their policy of not having not cutting ties with recruits who take visits elsewhere?
I didn't know that was their policy.
Yeah,
I would assume that.
a reported policy. Maybe it's not like official, but it's yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you'd commit somewhere if there were still visits you wanted to take. I
Yeah.
guess that's just the nature of dealing with 17, 18-year-olds,
Dude, I
Um,
don't know how these coaches do it, man. I know
I,
they get
I do
paid.
it. I do it every day. It's
Yeah.
not. It's a trip.
Yeah, and like I get that they get paid a lot of money, but like just to have it to be on your phone like all hours of the day, basically, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
There. It's definitely they. I have students now who are like going and visiting colleges and stuff, and when you start to do that, you start to get like caught up in the experience, right? And I'm sure
Yeah.
it's even magnified when you're on an official athletics visit and they're
Of
letting you put
course.
on the jerseys and take your pictures with pitchforks and whatever else, right? Um, it's just the nature of the beast when you're recruiting 17, 18-year-olds to come play for you, and especially in the transfer era too, like
Right.
you mentioned the importance of recruits, and it's definitely still important, but I think some of those losses um, can be mitigated a little easier given the transfer portal and given some of the talent that hits that portal.
Well,
Um,
and especially at wide receiver.
right, exactly. There's a
Now,
ton of depth.
ASU
So,
is in a weird spot because like outside of Jordan Tyson, our wide receivers have basically been, other than Guillory a few plays, like have been very silent this year.
mhm.
So that has to be a prioritization after this bye week. Like, and it's tough because our running game is clearly like it's our identity. It's our best player. Levitt is a great runner. Sims is like, it makes sense that we lean on the run game so much. I'm not even complaining about that. But you can't have games where it's Tyson has 5 catches and Troy O'Meara has 1 catch and Melquan Stovall has 1 catch and that's it. Or, it's got to be spread out a little more. So we'll see how that develops. But yeah, so ASU hockey quickly, they're now 1-4-1 overall. Granted, they've played a tough schedule, but they just got swept at Providence. They're at Northern Michigan this weekend, which is in Marquette, Michigan, on the Upper Peninsula. That's an interesting little corner of the country. So that's where ASU hockey will be. Hopefully, they can claw back to 500. A team that is not dealing with losing right now is ASU volleyball. They beat Houston 3-0 when we were recording last week. They followed it up with a 3-0 match win over Colorado and then did the same to Grand Canyon. So they're 19-2, stacking wins, only have one loss in the Big 12. It's, you love to see that. So, yeah. All right. Colton, you have anything to add before we wrap this one up?
Not really, man. We'll just see what happens when we get back on the field against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll dive into the Oklahoma State game a bit more next time. But yeah, kind of it's weird in football when you lose games by like 10 points, and it's not like you got blown out, but it also didn't really feel like you were the better team, Uh, so this game, Cincinnati, they clearly had upgraded in the portal too. Their quarterback was decent. Had a good tight end they brought in from Ohio State, so they have dudes. But just kind of a slightly disappointing loss, but in the grand scheme of things, not too bad. Let's hope it doesn't bleed out or bleed on into the rest of the season. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. Follow the College Huddle. They do great work, great shows on the College Huddle. And as always, go Sun Devils.